certainly one man who had appalling luck during Superpole after very encouraging times was Gregorio Lavia, the Spaniard who rides for the factory Kawasaki team. His front brake locked on, and in fact nearly pitched him off as he went across the line to start his lap, so he obviously had to go for a very steady lap then. And now the poor man has been stricken down by a high temperature and sickness. This morning we don't know what he's been eating, and we hope he won't accuse British food of being the source of the problem, but Gregorio Lavia has a temperature of 103 degrees, and he's already thrown up a couple of times, so we really wish him all the best and the most comfortable of possible races from his start back on the 4th row of the grid. The rest of the guys are hopefully in good shape, and his teammate Akira Yanagawa threads his way through to the front of the grid when he vaulted himself from the 4th row of the grid to the front row during an absolutely brilliant performance in Superpole. My name's Jack Bernicle. The lights will turn green any second now. Race 1, round 3, the World Superbike Championship of 1999 will commence. 25 laps of the 2.5-mile circuit here at Donington Park. Watch those lights. Green they are, and right in front of us a brilliant start from the two Ducatis, and also a screaming start from number 7 Keeley, but it's number 11 Troy Corser, 1996 world champion, consistently fast during qualifying, and I've got a feeling that that little local boy from Nottingham, Chrissy Walker, might have pushed his way through into the reckoning as well, and he has.
Walker up into second behind Killy, and the Suzuki is taking the lead, so Pier Francesco Killy from pole position. Excellent start. Troy Corser got in there at Redgate, but Killy is blasting away and taking Chrissy Walker with him. Jack, this is the best start I've seen in ages.
Killy
the crash just coming underneath the Stargates Bridge. I think that was a Kawasaki. Went off at a tangent, but all the leaders through. McLean safely at the moment. We'll go back and see who that was. But we got Killy, Walker, and there he is, Carl Fogarty in 3rd place.
So Fogarty making an early move, not wanting to let the leaders get away. Oh, and Chris Walker really belting those tyres early on. I can't see Lavia, I hope it wasn't him who went. Yanagawa completely muffed his start after all that good work during Superpole, and has ended up right back down, caught up in the pack. And this is going to be a grip. And it was Lavia who went down. I hope he's all right. I hope he's all right, and well, at least he can go and try and get himself better for the second race at the front. Keeley. Fogarty has dived underneath into the hairpin past Chris Walker. Walker on that kitted Kawasaki. What a performance from him. The boy who's challenging for honours in the British Superbike Series. But it's the extra Corona Suzuki. At the moment, if they've got a Dunlop tyre that lasts the pace, the last 25 laps, there's the first lap gone. Then Pier Francesco Killy is going to be your man. He's there. Oh, Foggy goes inside him at Redgate. But a sweep round from Keeley closes the door and makes sure that that Suzuki stays right there to celebrate the fact that it's got a pole position for Suzuki for the first time since Sugo 1989. Fogarty 2nd, Walker 3rd, Troy Corser 4th, Jamie Hayden on the Clarion Suzuki in 5th place, Aaron Slight 6th, Colin Edwards 7th, so the Castrol Hondas with work to do, and behind them we've got Nori Haga on that R7 Yamaha. Understanding, of course, that number 1, Carl Fogarty, and his teammate, Troy Corser, were a little concerned about getting the right selection of tyres for the cooler conditions today. Do you think they'll dare push hard in these conditions early on, Rob?
They have to. The pace is just absolutely frenzied at the start of this leg 1 of the British Superbike. And Chris Walker, he's been relegated now by Aaron Slight back to 5th place, but you've got to push on so hard. We saw Chris Walker's bike there, the 43 Kawasaki, slipping and sliding around Coppice onto the back straight on the previous lap, and Carl Fogarty going over the inside of Killy, but not quite. Carl was sideways then, managed to hold it, but Killy on the Suzuki looks very, very balanced indeed. He got a good setup in qualifying, and braking hard now into Goddard's onto the start-finish straight. Killy and the Suzuki look as one, but Carl Fogarty is absolutely 10/10ths, 100% wanting to get by. So Fogarty slipstreaming behind Killy down the start-finish straight. Carl on the brakes, goes for the inside line, and Carl Fogarty takes the lead. Killy has to tuck into second, but Carl, he means business today, Jack. He's looking for that win, but look at Killy's bike sliding. The Suzuki was nearly off then, but Killy holds on, and look how close he is. Fogarty's favourite section of the track, crater curves and into the old hairpin. Fogarty pulled about a bike's length, as we can see, Jack, so Fogarty safely in the lead, but Killy now under threat by Troy Corser as well.
And Killy is really wound on, trying to hang on to that Ducati. He's under a considerable assault from Corser as well, and certainly Foggy gave us the message that he wanted to get to the front. And look at Jamie Hayden there in 4th place, holding off Aaron Slight. Chris Walker just behind them. Edwards has fallen off Aaron Slight's pace a bit. They were right together on the first lap. Corser already setting a fastest lap of 1:33 seconds, 1:33. And that's a superb time already.
Just 0.6 of a second off. Killy for the inside into the S's has gone through. That is a brave manoeuvre, but the Suzuki is handling so well that Killy able to take advantage. But Carl Fogarty slips through me again. Will he go by as he did on the previous lap? Yes, the bike sideways, and Fogarty takes the lead again. But Killy and Fogarty, they are as one. That is just last lap. Every lap is a last lap at the moment, Jack.
And Killy really working hard. And look at Aaron Slight. Slight was happy with the way that things are set up with the Honda. He's got Nissan brakes on now instead of the Brembos that have caused him problems. This course traditionally harsh on brakes, a lot of heavy braking. They never really have a chance to cool off. So number 111, Aaron Slight, he's got brakes that he appears to be happier with after their dragging problems in Kyalami. And just look at this. Watch Carl Fogarty decide that this corner is mine as he goes down into the hairpin. Oh, and did he have it on a roll? Nothing that Keeley can do about that. Keeley likes to take his wide lines into turns. Is he leaving the door too wide open?
Yes, but it's a faster line through there. But nevertheless, we've gone through the old hairpin again, Fogarty's favourite section of the track. And Killy has closed a couple of bikes lengths down again. But there's Haga, there's Yanagawa, all safely through there. Doriano Rombani quite way down. Steve Hislop just going through there as well. So all in line astern, the Brits have gone through. But Killy has closed up a little bit, and Killy knows, as does that man Troy Corser, if Carl Fogarty is able to settle down, as he is at least at the moment, and get into his aggressive and devastatingly efficient style around Donington Park, then the next time they'll see them is on the winner's rostrum. But Killy has managed to close down again on the brakes. The Suzuki, at least at the moment, does look more balanced than the Ducati of Carl Fogarty. But Fogarty on the Ducati, just out of the S's then, pulled that bike's length back again from Killy, but the Suzuki again closing down into Melbourne Loop. He's so close, Jack. I'm on the edge of the seat, my heart is in the mouth, but Carl Fogarty has got all the moves from Killy covered at the moment.
And they've opened up just a little gap there there's a second or so to Troy Corser in 3rd place, Slight, Hayden, Walker in 6th, Colin Edwards 7th, Haga in 8th place, Yanagawa 9th, and then the Reynolds and Emmett Roadshow of the Reve Red Bull Ducatis are 10th and 11th. And Romboni, who must have been asleep on the start line from the 2nd row, is back in 12th place. So he well and truly messed that up. And Aaron Slight beginning to put a bit of pressure on the Australian Ducati rider. And Troy Corser then in 3rd place, but we know how wily and shrewd he is. Is he letting that gap open up a bit to just conserve his tyres? Carl Fogarty leads ahead of Pier Francesco Killy. 3rd place Troy Corser, 4th Aaron Slight, and right behind Slight, impressively close, the Clarion Suzuki of Jamie Hayden, number 42, and number 43, Chris Walker on the UK Kawasaki. Tremendous ride from the two British Superbike contenders, who of course will be back here racing Superbikes in the British scene in the not too distant future. But just look at the way Killy has got that Suzuki on the edge. It's twitching, those Dunlops are twitching.
It is, but very well balanced indeed. But Carl Fogarty's got the control of things at the moment, leading from the front, which of course he's used to doing. But Troy Corser has got big trouble now from Aaron Slight, has carved his way through up a few places and is threatening because of course Corser and Slight going for the inside. The bike was sideways a la Carl Fogarty style, and he's gone through. It works. Getting the bike sideways, motocross, super motard style into the Melbourne Loop makes all the difference. And look at Aaron Slight is really on a fly now. He's closing down visibly onto the leading duo, and of course Aaron Slight knows that he's got to get onto the back of Pier Francesco Killy and of course Carl Fogarty, because that is what is happening. Foggy is settled down, he is on the move, and we see now that Aaron Slight is on the brakes, but he's controlling the bike by the rear brake and gets by just the same as Carl Fogarty did on Pier Francesco Killy. Well, Jack, you couldn't do this 10 years ago, but now it's, well, case in point.
And the first thing that Troy Corser did was take a quick glance over his shoulder as if to see who on earth it was right behind him. They're not the World Championship regulars. James Hayden and Chris Walker are the guys behind him, so he'd better just concentrate on the guys in front. And at the moment, that guy in front, Carl Fogarty, he's beginning to creep away. He's opening up that gap. The sparks are flying. Corsa's hanging in there on 4th place. And look at Yanagawa beginning to attack Norihaga back there, 41 and 4. But this guy, Harvey Beltram from Castrol Honda, reminded me just before we started work here in our commentary position at Donington Park that Aaron Slight went from 10th place to a race win in 1997 round Donington. He likes the place, he knows how to set up the Honda around here, and he reckons that the 33-year-old New Zealander is going to be a hot contender.
And Aaron Slight again using the power of the rear brake to control his Honda RC45 into the S's there. Now, after qualifying, the Hondas of Aaron Slight and Colin Edwards were the 2 fastest bikes around Donington Park circuit. And so Aaron, we can see visibly closing onto the back of Pier Francesco Chili, but Carl Fogarty's Ducati, at least in qualifying, was the 3rd fastest behind the Hondas. So I think that very quickly Slighty will be able to catch up to Chili, but all the time this is happening, and then of course he's got to get by Chili, which is another matter. All the time this is happening is Carl Fogarty is gradually, inexorably pulling away, and he must have nearly a second's lead now.
And Yanagawa in 9th place tried to find a line through Redgate underneath Norihaga. Not an easy thing to do, because you never quite know where Norrie's going to be next. In fact, during his Super Pole lap, as he came into Goddard's, he never knew where he was going to be next, and that was what cost him and put him back on the 3rd row of the grid. But Carl Fogarty, he was happy to be close to pole position, very happy indeed, and he is really making the most of it. And now as he begins to pull a dangerous-looking margin, his rivals really don't want to let him just take control of this and move out of sight. But at the moment, let's remember that Kili is getting this Alstara Corona Suzuki working for the first time rather well. They've struggled so far this year. He hasn't been his usual optimistic self, but he was smiling and shining last night. In fact, my colleague Rob Holmes' wife Laura went into a complete swoon from which she hasn't recovered when the smiling Kili, when she met the smiling Kili in the extra Corona tent last night. So Frankie Keeley putting on a great show here. The first pole position for Suzuki since 1989, and here he is in 2nd place. And there's Colin Edwards, not really expecting to be struggling behind, or rather just in front of Hayden and Walker, but he's beginning to move in on Aaron Slight and Troy Corsa. So could the 2nd Honda move into the reckoning? He too using Nissan brakes, so both the Hondas are set up pretty similarly, and both of them shouldn't have any of those brake problems that dogged them in Kyalami.
Well, not very much difference at all in performance, visible performance that is, between Troy Corsa and the pursuing pack behind him, whether it's a Honda, whether it's a Suzuki, whether it's a Kawasaki. They're all pretty much of a muchness at the moment. Colin Edwards there chased down by Chris Walker and the marauding mob. But it's interesting to see that Carl Fogarty using the power of the Ducati down the Craner curves to his full advantage.
The 25-year-old Texan, Colin Edwards, number 5, the 2nd of the Castrol Hondas, and he is beginning to press Troy Corsa. Corsa is such a wily man. He's so happy with the setup of his bike. The Australian, very, very content with things. I just wonder if he's playing a little bit of cat and mouse, but I wouldn't expect him to let the guys get quite away from him as this, unless he's got a long-term strategy, 25 laps, conserving those Michelins, which they knew they were going to have some problem. Look at the full-on British boys, Jamie Hayden and Chris Walker, the young guns, numbers 42 and 43.
Colin Edwards, sorry about that, Jack. Colin Edwards has used the power of the Honda down the straight, held the bike stable and got through on Troy Corsa. So Colin Edwards, well, he's up into 3rd place again, and he was on the rostrum in both of the races in South Africa. So Colin Edwards used that supreme power down the back straight, gunned his Honda by the Ducati. Oh, high side by Hayden. He's gone down at the Melbourne hairpin. He looks okay, but that bike spat him off unceremoniously, and I think that was Steve Wissop just missed the crash bike of James Hayden, but James just cracked the throttle a little bit too early, a little bit too much, and that pitched him off. High side is the worst possible crash, and the marshals hurrying to get the debris out of the way for the riders trailing through at the back of the grid. But if we see that caption again, Jack, we'll see that the Suzuki of James Hayden high-sided. Meanwhile,
the high-siding caption, I'm looking forward to seeing that, my boy, but if we see the crash again, we might see that he flicked himself over the front. James Hayden's season has been dogged by crashes. It's been dogged by good results, a mixture of terrific results and crashes, and so that's pretty typical of his season so far. James Hayden unlucky to crash out of 5th place, and that leaves Chris Walker there, the only local British Championship rider, in with a sniff at the moment, and R1&R2 very much in with a sniff of 2nd place. Colin Edwards is also on the move, so the Hondas are looking good round this. They are looking as if they're going to make an impact. R1&R2
not on this lap, as not close enough to try and do just what we saw him then, locking the back wheel and rear wheel sliding his Honda RC45, but he's lining himself. That was a dress rehearsal for the next lap, and that is, I think, James Hayden just being helped to the edge of the track after his off at the Melbourne hairpin. That really was quite painful. He landed heavily on his ankles. Hopefully there's nothing broken, but nevertheless, that man there on the 111 bike, that is R1&R2. He is lining up Pier Francesco Chili for either as late as under the Dunlop Bridge and then breaking into the S's, but he is lining up Pier Francesco Chili, and Slidey is looking to go for the inside at Redgate. Well, that's an early manoeuvre, but slams the door on R1&R2's face there. Pier Francesco Chili says, no, not this time. So off down through Hollywood, Craner curves, the downhill like going off the edge of the world, Jack. Just there, the circuit disappears temporarily, but Killy's got it covered into the old hairpin, the uphill section now. R1&R2's bike is just winding up the dress rehearsal we saw a few corners ago. Slidey is teeing up Pier Francesco Chili on the 7 bike, the Suzuki. I put my 50 pence down that R1&R2 will go slipstream Killy and outbrake Killy into the Lake S's the next time round. But Killy, well, he's on a roll. He went well in Superpole. He'll do everything he can to stop that. But look at the body language of R1&R2. He's going to be tucking in now behind Pierre Killy and moving out of the slipstream on the brakes and right on cue there. No problems at all. The speed of the Honda was evident there. Whatever are people saying about the Ducatis have got it all their own way. The Hondas are fast at Donington. And Frankie Keeley desperately defending his line, but not quite sufficiently. He does like those wide lines. It must be awfully tempting to look at that barn door and attempt to go through it. R1&R2's done it. Frankie Keeley, remember, finished 3rd in the first race here on the Ducati last year, 5th in the 2nd race. He likes Donington. He goes well around Donington. And if he could repeat that rostrum place, goodness me, that would mean I'd have to give 50p to this big spending colleague of mine who reckons that he is good. Said yesterday that he reckons that he's going to make it. And there's the manoeuvre. He gets himself through on the inside very, very tidily, almost sideways on, as if he could at least bounce off Keeley if he didn't make it through. But R1&R2 now into 2nd place. Can he do anything about the lead that Carl Fogarty's got? And that lead at the moment is 3.24 seconds. It's a big one. Fogarty's just done a 133.7. They're down below 134. I can't believe we've reached lap 10. Foggy's stuck in 133.7, and this has been such a breathtaking race that I hadn't realised. Oh dear, that's bad news for everyone. Carlos Macias, the Colombian tailender, is already in shot, so a few people are going to have to find a way past him, and certainly 1 or 2 people got frustrated with him during the course of qualifying over the last couple of days. Let's hope he's got his rear view mirrors well and truly in place. But look at Fogarty. At the moment, he doesn't need them. He won't be looking behind him. He'll just be focused on the front, just as Killy is focused on that man Slide. He doesn't want to let him get away. But the surprise is Troy Corser. Corser has been on such good form all weekend. We really expected a challenge from him, and right now, Rob, we're not getting it. Well, it could be a problem with tyres because of the track surface temperature being cooler than in qualifying. Maybe Troy has chosen a tyre that's not quite as soft at this stage of the race as it needs to be. Maybe it will come on stronger in the second part of the race, but at the moment R1&R2 is well in control of 2nd place. But it's good to see that Pier Francesco Chili is managing to hang on to the back of the 111 bike, but just coming into view now is the man, and that is Colin Edwards in 4th place on the... Oh, there's a yellow flag, but nobody's crashed. I think that's Macias just coasting to the edge of the track. Best place for you. But Colin Edwards is menacingly closing down to the back of Pier Francesco Chili. I think in about 3 to 4 laps at that 2nd of the RC45 Hondas will close down and then put Pier Francesco in even more dire straits for the dice for that third place. But
the other man on the move is Akira Yanagawa. Yanagawa has plastered himself all over Haga. Haga must be in trouble. Haga's been overtaken by John Reynolds as well. The Revi Red Bull Ducati has got itself through into 8th place. So some problem surely for Nori Haga on the Yamaha R7. But look at Chris Walker sandwiched between these two World Superbike stars. In fact, one of them a world champion, and he's not overawed at all. He was very pale and very nervous, the kid from Nottingham, before he went out and did Super Pole for the first time in his life yesterday. But in fact, he ended up with an extremely respectable second row starting position. And look at the way he's laying things on. He is riding the kit Kawasaki, not the ex-Yanagawa bike. And look at him. He's taking a look up the inside of Troy Corser, thinking, this guy's too slow. World champion, get out of my way.
Chris Walker's Kawasaki might not be the fastest bike out there. In fact, it's 15 miles an hour slower than anything else, but it handles the best. And right on cue, Chris Walker goes to the inside. Yellow flag's waving, though. A yellow bike
Killy has gone down.
Suzuki of Killy has crashed. It's a low side, it maybe is a high side, but Killy is down. Can he push that Suzuki uphill and go again? But perhaps the producer will put us onto the footage to show us what happened there. But just as Chris Walker was dynamite on the brakes and went onto the inside and took that place away, Pier Francesco Killy has crashed. That is devastating.
Your wife will be in tears.
I'm not going home tonight. I daren't go home tonight. I'll be sleeping in the dustbin. Again. But meanwhile, at the front, we've got Carl Fogarty pulling away. But this battle here between the Kawasaki, Chris Walker just off frame there. Troy Corser is in big problems because Akira Yanagawa is about to give Corser the treatment again as they pull out of the old hairpin and uphill on the run towards McLean's. Yanagawa's bike, as loose as it was in qualifying, but it works for him, is about to zap Troy Corser.
And it certainly looks as if the Ducati's getting under his feet a bit at the moment, and he wants to get past, doesn't he? The language is that he wants to get past. And yes, he does like that Kawasaki snaking. He says he's comfortable with it. And it's good to see John Reynolds visible in the distance. Remember, he finished 3rd at Alton Park, just a shaving ahead of Chris Walker in the second race last weekend, having gone out of the first one when the Ducati's transmission went. But right now, Yanagawa needs to find some way of getting inside. It's noticeable that the Ducati's still fairly quick in a straight line, and down there he didn't get a sniff at it to get underneath at the S's.
Well, both the Kawasaki's are about 10 miles an hour slower than the Ducati, so that, I think, at the moment is what's keeping Troy Corser's bike in contention with the Kawasaki. Chris Walker's off the bike.
Be careful.
Sideways that bike was, but Chris Walker's bike is handling so well, despite its power deficiency, that Chris Walker, motocross style, which of course he's used to, can afford to have one foot off the footrest, championship stunt riding style, and still maintain his distance. But Chris Walker is making that Kawasaki do things around the corners that it wasn't designed to be doing.
Well, he's certainly got it set up beautifully for his full-on style. He moves around a lot on the bike. He needs something relatively stable underneath him, and it's great to watch him leading these two World Superbike regulars like this. And meanwhile, World Superbike regular passing Lance Isaacs, the 20-year-old coloured South African who's now doing a full series this year. He has just been lapped by this man, Fogarty. Carl Fogarty now 3.2 second lead. He's holding that lead very, very firmly over Aaron Slight. That lead has been consistent for about the last 4 or 5 laps since Aaron Slight got through into second place. So you could just see Slight coming onto the straight in the background. And at the moment, we can see that this guy, 32 years old now, 4 times, I beg your pardon, might be 4 times world champion, 3 times World Superbike champion, and looking for that fourth one, and looking also for a 51st victory. Remember, he lost by an absolute whisker, by hundredths of a second to Troy Corser in Phillip Island, and he doesn't want that to happen around here. There's no danger of that at all if he stays on the bike, and at the moment he looks very comfortable. The bike's just riding as loosely and comfortable as he wants it to, and it looks as if at the moment his pre-race worries about tyres, which he voiced, haven't so far come into any sort of fruition at all. He looks very comfortable on the bike. That's lap 14 out of 25. Aaron Slight 3.35 seconds behind him there as they go into Redgate. And behind him, Colin Edwards, who has benefited from that tragic departure of Pier Francesco Killy. That was such a shame when the Suzuki was showing so well. His teammate at Fujiwara way back down in 14th place, but at least he's in a point-scoring position. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go away. We'll be back. Welcome back to Motorcycle News World Championship Superbike action, and number 5, Colin Edwards, in 3rd place, but it's a relatively distant 3rd place. He's now back to 9.1 seconds adrift of leader Carl Fogarty, and he's at the moment about 5 seconds ahead of a terrific battle between Chris Walker, Akira Yanagawa, Troy Corser and John Reynolds, who's closed right up on former world champion Troy Corser, and the Revy Red Bull Ducati Kawasaki is looking dangerous. Fogarty then leads, lap 16 complete out of 25. Aaron Slight still desperately trying to close down 3.2. That gap we keep thinking is closing, and at the moment it remains doggedly consistent. 6 seconds further back, there's Edwards. Here's Walker. Yanagawa on the factory bike beginning to attack Chris Walker on the UK Kawasaki, and John Reynolds on the Revy Red Bull Ducati beginning to attack Troy Corser on the factory performance Ducati. I wonder who's made the right... What tyres does John Reynolds use? Perhaps he's made a good choice of tyres for this race. It's looking like it.
Yes, I think so. It really is, at this stage of the race, a matter of tyre choice. And I certainly, looking at Carl Fogarty's bike, believe that he's had to go for a little tiny bit softer compound tyre than he originally planned to. But certainly with a 3.264 lead on the pursuing Aaron Slight, I think it's very unlikely that Aaron is going to be able to pull in half a second per lap, because I think with something like 8 laps to go. But the focus at the moment, the Kawasaki is here. Chris Walker has been caught now by the pursuing Akira Yanagawa, and Yanagawa's Kawasaki, I think, that bit faster than Chris Walker's. So even though Chris's bike is handling extremely well, Yanagawa is wearing Chris down, and Akira will choose as relatively safe a place as possible to get by the fighting Chris Walker. But an excellent ride by Chris in 4th place at the moment. That's excellent work.
Look at the way he's revving the nuts off that Kawasaki as he drops down into the right-handed hairpin, and he's got oh, look at him, he's squirmed about. Great to watch, and look at that leg coming out. Chris Walker into Goddard's, Akira Yanagawa for company, and then the 2 Michelin-clad bikes of Troy Corser and the Revy Red Bull John Reynolds. I wonder if Reynolds can bull his way past Troy Corser. This is getting really fascinating. Now Walker, can he hang on in front of Akira Yanagawa? Yanagawa says that's a more comfortable bike than last year's factory bike. The power delivery, it's still strong, but it's a little more gentle. You wouldn't think so, the way the thing shakes about. Certainly Steve Hislop, who's now made it through to 9th place on the ex-Yanagawa Kawasaki from last year, reckons it's a very difficult bike to get to handle. But you wouldn't think that watching... Oh, Akira!
That rear tyre of Yanagawa's bike nearly let him down then. The bike was sideways, and look how much that's dropped him off the back of Chris Walker. Yanagawa's bike for the last 2 laps coming out of, here we see it, just on the apex into the old hairpin. Yanagawa opened the throttle that little bit too soon to get the drive on the uphill rush, because he's lining Chris Walker up, or was lining Chris Walker up, to take him down the fastest part of the circuit. But Yanagawa's going to have to
do it all again.
Yes, he's got to line himself up another 2 laps to get by Chris Walker. Chris Walker's bike, for me, Jack, is the best handling bike, bar Carl Fogarty's Ducati, out there on track. It might be 10 miles an hour slower than everybody else's, but Chris Walker around this circuit, well, he's going to be a tough man to catch, let alone pass.
And yes, and passing that knee is going to be one problem once you get up to him. But notice that Troy Corser, with that moment of Yanagawa's, partly due to that, and Akira really is riding it very fast and loose, but he's getting closed down again by Troy Corser and John Reynolds. I think Reynolds' presence is having a somewhat invigorating effect on that number 11 Ducati of Troy Corser, who's thinking, what am I doing here? I've got to make a bit of ground, because of course he'd got to within 4 points of Carl Fogarty in the World Championship by beating him in Phillip Island, and now he's losing out again. Well, at least we're not getting the dominant Ducatis that people were complaining about with Troy Corser back in 6th place.
Well, except for this man, Carl Fogarty, the sun is shining now.
There's only one of them.
Oh yeah, the sun is shining now, but the fog is out. Carl Fogarty, that man there, well, he is in control from the front of this race, but that man, Aaron Slight, I think it's likely to be still 3 seconds. He's not given up yet, with something like 7 or so laps to go. And
on the last lap, Rob, the gap actually dropped below 3 seconds for the first time, just to 2.914. So Aaron's still got his head down. He's still giving it everything. He's not given up the pursuit.
But look at the gap, almost the length of that back straight between Aaron Slight and the pursuing Colin Edwards, again on Honda. But Carl Fogarty, well, pulling out of the S's there, just a wheelie, a controlled wheelie. But Carl's bike is very balanced indeed. In fact, Carl, a very balanced rider indeed. A chip on both shoulders, shall we say, after all the speculative jibes about, well, Ducatis have an unfair advantage. But Foggy is going good, but that lead has dropped a little bit, or it had after the last lap. 2.914 4 seconds between the pursuing Aaron Slight and leader Carl Fogarty.
Fogarty goes past now in a bit of sunshine. There goes
2.5
Aaron
seconds,
Slight,
it's
and
dropping.
it's down to 2.574 seconds. The gap is just beginning to close down. We've got 6 laps for Aaron Slight to do anything about it. How aware of it is Carl Fogarty, and how much will he need to push on? How much does he want to push on? Here's Carl Fogarty. He leads. He's just 2.5 seconds ahead of Aaron Slight. 11 seconds back, Colin Edwards, and then Walker and Yanagawa absolutely nailed together, and so too John Reynolds has got past Troy Corser. Reynolds passed Corser as they flew past us down the start and finish straight here. So a wonderful performance by the veteran Englishman on the Revy Red Bull Ducati. Aaron Slight, number 111, he's in second place. He's got that gap down to 2.5 seconds, and he's riding as if he knows it. He can see it closing. It's visibly closing as he gets hard on the brakes. Look at the way he's drifting it into the S's. That's where he hit the rumble strip there, or coming out of the S's, and wrecked his Super Pole lap, which is what dropped him to the second row of the grid. He's not thinking about that now. He's just got Foggy in his sights. Aaron
Slight is on a charge. We just saw the breakdown of the last 4 laps of Carl Fogarty and Aaron Slight, and Aaron Slight now doing is broken into the 1:33 bracket, and Carl Fogarty has stayed on a plateau at 1:34s for the last 4 laps. So Aaron Slight is speeding up, and you can see the distance closing down now. Carl Fogarty with 5 laps to go. We'll see in his lap board there was Slick Bass and Michaela waving at Carl to up the pace, and which he has done. 2.7 seconds the gap now. So Foggy knows that Aaron Slight is closing down. He can almost smell the Honda RC45 closing down on him. But Aaron Slight in second place, 2.7 seconds behind Foggy. Colin Edwards in a safe third place there. But the bike then of Aaron Slight, as he braked to go into the S's, once again that bike was sideways. Aaron Slight is the maestro of controlling this Honda RC45, the Castrol Honda, by the rear brake. That is frightening stuff, but very entertaining to see. But the last 3 laps, the 3 gaps that we're seeing, 2.7, 2.5, 2.91. So perhaps by sliding the bike there, Aaron, you're losing a little bit off the back of Carl Fogarty. But on to the fastest part of the circuit now. Foggy buries his head into the tank, elbows in, chin down, back up. And there is the man at the top of the picture, Aaron Slight. This is the engine country for the Honda RC45. It's got that slight speed advantage, forgive me the pun there, over the Ducati of Carl Fogarty, but so far it's not crossed over, it's not paid dividends in closing down to Carl Fogarty. We've got just about 3.5 or 4 laps to go. Carl Fogarty tantalisingly teasing through 3 seconds in front of Aaron Slight. Jack, I think it could be all over by the shouting. Is it too early to tell? Slighting is loitering with intent.
I'm not going to tell. I daren't. I'm not even going to bet you that outrageous 50 pence that you usually put on anything. What I do like is the fact that, well, the Ducati looks very stable, doesn't it? It's not getting itself out of shape. Those tyres look as if they're working well, and the Ducati is holding that lead. 2.6. It's only a matter of tenths keep coming and going, so that was only a tenth of a second gained with a lap of 1:34.605 against Fogarty's 1:34.628. There's nothing in it. And then 10 seconds behind Aaron Slight, his teammate Colin Edwards. He'll be a wee bit disappointed with that, but he's going to get on the rostrum. And then Walker and Yanagawa are still at it, and Chris Walker still has the advantage. And also coming into that, Troy Corser has repassed John Reynolds as they go past us. Steve Hislop has got past Norrie Hager. I don't know what's up with Hager. He's in 9th place, definitely not comfortable. Sean Emmett 10th, Dario Romboni 11th, and 12th place, rounding out the top dozen as they fly past here, the Virgin Yamaha of Niall Mackenzie. But look at this, we're back with Chrissy Walker, still in 4th place. What a tremendous ride. I mean, to be riding as well as this, and to be defending his post against Akira Yanagawa, this is great stuff.
But look at Akira Yanagawa. We saw this exact same picture just 4 laps ago, where Akira Yanagawa had got up onto the back of Chris Walker and will slipstream him down that back straight. And Akira's bike is sliding all over the place, but it has right from lap 1. And Chris Walker, he's holding Akira Yanagawa off by virtue of the fact that the 43 Kawasaki of Chris Walker is set up just right. Chris has got that bike set up so well, it's so well balanced, and so we're into this Melbourne Loop section, which is where Chris Walker on the brakes into Melbourne Loop. No problems at all. That is not a place, Akira, where you're going to get by Chris Walker, but Yanagawa will stay in behind Chris Walker, and my prediction is that if he can get close on the exit to Coppice on the next lap, that is where Akira will try to get back past Chris Walker and use that slight power advantage of the factory Kawasaki, the 4 bike of Akira Yanagawa. But onto the start-finish straight. The dress rehearsal for Akira Yanagawa has closed up. The power of that 4 bike has closed up onto the back of Chris Walker. We've got about 6 corners to go until the fastest part of the circuit. And Jack, I think that is where Akira will make his move. But Walker, this is a strong part, not just for Carl Fogarty, but a strong part of the circuit for Chris Walker. He sweeps down through the Craner curves and through the old hairpin. And Akira Yanagawa is closing. And, well, Akira, you've got to be closer to get by on this lap.
In 4th and 5th places then, Chris Walker, Akira Yanagawa, and that man Troy Corser. He always baffles us in these races. Now he's coming back on the gas again. He's got repassed John Reynolds and left the Revy Red Bull Ducati, and he's been starting to behave as if everything's fine. So Troy Corser beginning to look a potential threat to these two. I shouldn't think they're too concerned about him, but what is impressive is that Walker keeps getting the gap that he needs to keep Akira out of his slipstream.
Yanagawa's bike was sideways, and he has now become officially desperate as Akira Yanagawa to try and get past Chris Walker. But in this stage of the race, it is not the case where Akira Yanagawa is going to be able to do that. I'm going to make another prediction because Chrissy Walker's bike is set up much better than Akira Yanagawa's, whose bike is faster, but around Donington Park Circuit, corner speed means everything, and Carl sliding a little bit then, but still with just under 3 seconds the lead over Aaron Slide. Foggy, well, with 2 laps to go, you've got everything covered. But Chris Walker, I believe, will maintain that 4th place. Akira Yanagawa's bike is faster, but it don't handle as good as Chris Walker's. Chris is looking good for 4th place for me.
So Chris Walker potentially 4th. There's Michaela and David Tardozzi slick pass in the Ducati camp, keeping a close eye on this man, hoping he's reading their pit boards, hoping he knows just where Aaron Slide is. It's looking that way, 2.8 seconds. He's been holding that gap so consistently, and he's only lapping at 1:34.5, so they're not pushing that hard. They're really not. They're not at lap record pace. He's not needing to push that hard at this stage in the race.
I don't think the conditions would allow that lap record to be broken. It's warming up now, the track surface, and indeed the ambient is up to probably 17 or 18 degrees Celsius now, but not good enough in race 1 to challenge that lap record of Troy Corser's from 1998. But race 2, I think so. Carl Fogarty now, well, it's a benefit race for him. Carl has been majestic. He's been in control. He's controlled this race from the start. Peter Goddard on the Aprilia has gone pop now, but Carl Fogarty safely by with 1 lap to go. It's all under control.
The final lap, the 25th and final lap, Carl Fogarty made his move early in this race on Pier Francesco Chili, the pole position man on Suzuki. And once he made that move, no one else really got near him. He's very, very gradually pulled out that lead. At one stage, 3/4 distance, New Zealander Aaron Slide on the Castrol Honda began to look as if he could close the gap down, but it has remained naggingly consistent, as in fact has gone back above 3 seconds once again. 3.154 second lead as he went into that last lap for Carl Fogarty. So that must be encouraging for him. He's just where he wants to be in front of his home fans. He was desperate to bring a win to these people, and the flags and banners all around this track, they're just urging Fogarty to win, telling him how great he is. It must be wonderful, mustn't it, to have all these people saying you're absolutely wonderful, go for it, going, gone, Lord Foggy, and stuff like that all around the place. And he's just got to live up to it. Well, that's what he's been doing. He's going through the S's. He's not got far to go. Drop it through the S's, steer clear of those back markers, perhaps leave them to do an extra lap. Takes a quick look over his shoulder, no problem there, and drops himself down towards Melbourne and just steer clear of any fireworks during the last 2 turns. And Carl Fogarty will take a very, very loudly hailed victory here in the first race. It makes that's a longer look behind as he's given all through the race, so he's obviously been very, very confident. The sun is coming out to welcome him home, so finally the clouds are lifting, and Fogarty guns the Ducati across the finishing line for his 51st World Superbike win. 2nd place for Aaron Slide on the Castrol Honda number 111 to maintain his championship challenge. And what's happening 3rd place should be Colin Edwards. It's a long wait, isn't it? Here he is, the number 5 Honda of Colin Edwards, so it's a Honda 2-3. And here is Chris Walker out of Goddard's victory wheelie. Chrissy Walker from Nottingham 4th, Akira Yanagawa 5th, 6th place for Troy Corser. 7th place for the Revy Red Bull Ducati of John Reynolds. And that's hugs and kisses galore in the Ducati camp. It's a British win on British soil, or an Anglo-Italian win on Anglo soil. Look at that. Fogarty's over the proverbial moon. The Blackburn Bullet says, yes, that's better. That's better. And Michaela congratulates everybody in the Ducati camp. That's great. They've won. Carl Fogarty wins the first race of the MCN World Superbike Championship. Congratulations here from Colin Edwards, who finishes in 3rd place, a somewhat distant 3rd place. He'll come up with that word again. What about the distance you finished behind? Well, I think it was disgusting, but somehow the Hondas have got to do something about it. And Aaron Slight wasn't that far off.
No,
it wasn't a big win. It was just about a comfortable one.
It was indeed, and Aaron Slight was fighting hard to try and close down the 3-second gap between him and Carl Fogarty, and dipped down into the 1 minute 33 second laps when he really was trying to catch up with Carl. And we saw Aaron Slight rear wheel slide the bike into the S's to try and catch up. But Carl Fogarty, what I think he's done, Jack, apart from destroy the opposition, was went for a slightly softer tyre at the race, the start of the race, and pulled clear, carved his way through and pulled clear, and then was able to control the race from the front, because people with slightly harder wearing tyres weren't able to push hard because they couldn't get the grip. So Foggy, a perfectly calculated copybook win, his 51st win, and who is going to stop him in race 2?
Well, he's certainly he's added another 25 points to the 90 he already had. That's 115 now in the championship. And with Troy Corser back in 6th position, he's certainly gained some fairly healthy ground in the World Championship chase. Aaron Slight goes from 62 to 82, stays 3rd in the championship, closes up a bit on Troy Corser, but somehow that's the man he's got to do something about. And all around Donington Park now, the hooters are going, everybody's up on their feet in the grandstand opposite us, waiting to welcome Fogarty as he comes through the Melbourne Loop now. And he's coming back into Goddard's. And look at these banks of people. It looks a bit like Brands Hatch, especially as the sun starts to come out. And Carl Fogarty returns to the pit area, and here he comes up the pit lane for, I should think, a pretty hearty welcome from his Ducati crew. First place then, Fogarty now in the championship, 115 against 96 for Corser, 82 Slight, 72 Edwards, 53 Yanagawa, 40 for Haga, a disappointing ride for him. Romboni also relatively downfield, 36 points, and in 8th place Fujiwara. 9th place, desperately unlucky, Keeley. And Levere, of course, they've lost a lot of ground with that troubled first race of theirs. Chrissy Walker comes into the reckoning in a joint 13th place with Robert Ulm after a definitely brilliant ride for the little guy from Nottingham, very much a local boy. Some of the flags and banners out around here for both him and John Reynolds, 2 local men, and they have rewarded the local fans with 4th and 7th places. 8th, a hard-ridden 8th for Steve Hislop, who closed very much up on John Reynolds in the closing stages. An impressive performance on the ex-Yanagawa 1998 factory Kawasaki. So Kawasaki should be well pleased with the performance of the British UK boys, as well as with the factory bike of Yanagawa's. And behind them, incidentally, Sean Emmett, Nori Haga, Doriano Romboni, Niall Mackenzie 12th, 13th place Fujiwara, 14th Igor Yerman, and Frederic Prota, the Frenchman, 15th. Just behind him, a somewhat sore Vito Goreski after that crash he had during Superpole. On his Superpole lap yesterday. And this is Aaron Slight, who you can see he's been working hard. He really did work that Honda as hard as possible to try and make good the ground that he found himself trailing to Fogarty. In the end, it wasn't quite good enough, but it was very exciting while he was making that effort. That was some great sliding going on that Michelin-clad Castrol Honda. And the points in the manufacturer's standings, 125, Ducati once again, Honda on 88, Kawasaki 55, Yamaha 43. Lance Isaac's bike, number 38, being pushed in there. He finished, he was not classified as a finisher, 17 finishes in fact. Vito Goreski, Alessandro Gramini, the last man. This is Colin Edwards.
Third place. Yeah, hopefully we'll have a clutch next round.
Commentary box, and we couldn't keep warm earlier in the day. So what a chance. It's been a warm lap indeed on the move. the second race here of the World Superbikes Round 3, the motorcycle news-backed World Superbike Round here at Donington Park. Alongside Jack Burnicle, alongside me I've got not only Rob Orme, but the man who brilliantly won the World Supersports race for Belgada Yamaha, guesting for the Yamaha team just 3/4 of an hour ago, and that's James Whitham. James, welcome.
Thanks a lot, Jack.
And congratulations. Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I really did. I really enjoyed that. The bike's good to ride. Few problems yet, but yeah, perfect. I mean, I couldn't have wished for any more this weekend.
Did you have a pretty goosey start? Because you seemed to have a lot of ground to make up during that the first couple of laps, and you did make it up as well.
Yeah, I made one of my legendary bad starts and then got held up at the first corner as Casoli went down with another couple of riders. I think William Costas was involved as well, which put me back to about sort of 15th. By the time I got round here on the first lap, I think it was about 10th. And yeah, I mean, I was helped by the fact that the bike is very quick, and it helps when you carving your way through if you can actually get level before you try and sort of outbrake. And you know, if you've got a slow bike, then it would have been very difficult, but the bike's very good, so it was possible, you know.
We certainly, the first time we spotted you was in 10th place, and you were still eating up places then, remarkably, like 7th next time around, and we knew that we were on the move then. But yes, it does make it a bit easier if you can get alongside somebody rather than just nudge them from behind, doesn't it? Now, Pier Francesco Chili, we're hoping will survive this race from pole position, because he was riding superbly when he pitched off in 3rd place in the first race. Okay, here we go for the second race of World Superbikes Round 3, Donington Park, 1999. Pole position, Keeley. The two Ducatis of first race winner Fogarty and Troy Corser. Akira Yanagawa on the outside, and behind him the menacing figure of Chris Walker, little Chris Walker, who beat Yanagawa in a race-long battle in the first race. And incidentally, he never looked over his shoulder, not once. That little guy from Nottingham never knew who was behind him. Wait for those lights to change. They're gone. Head down for Pier Francesco Chili. He got good drive initially, but look at that man, Troy Corser, once again. Fogarty looks up the inside, doesn't make a move, and Chris Walker's done it again. He's got a blazer into 4th place off the second row of the grid. So Corser, Keeley, Fogarty, Chris Walker in 4th place on his Kawasaki, and once more Fogarty dives back past Keeley. Keeley had him for a moment on the inside. Fogarty snatches it back on his favourite part of the track, and Colin Edwards, the 25-year-old Texan, is right there in 5th place on the Castrol Honda, and right behind him, Norrie Haga. We'd expect a few fireworks from Haga. We didn't get them in the first race. Perhaps he'll have things better sorted out for the second race and give this crowd something to cheer, because they do like having him around. And look at that lead that Troy Corser's got. Has Corser decided to do the same, perhaps, Rob Orme, as what Carl Fogarty did in the first race and make a break for it early?
Very much so, Jack. And with the temperature now just... Oh, high side by Peter Goddard. The Aprilia is destroyed. Goddard got on the power a little bit too early coming out of Coppice and tried to get the drive, but the bike just high-sided and spat him off. That Aprilia, well, Peter looks okay, but the Aprilia is destroyed.
Rob, he has a trouble with dislocating shoulder. I think he may have dislocated that suspect left shoulder again. That looks painful. And
see it again, just on between the apexes at Coppice, where you've got to get the power down. The Aprilia just throws him right out the front door, and Goddard is bounced off the track, and that shoulder, yes, you can see just as he's sliding along, looks like it's ominously out of joint again. That is a scary crash, Jack.
So Peter Goddard, who went out of race 1 very, very late with just 2 laps to go when the clutch went on the Aprilia, makes a more dramatic exit from race 2. But look at the way Troy Corser is disappearing at the front, and Keeley once again being hounded by those Castrol Hondas. The Castrol Hondas not happy about where they finished in the first race. And look at Norrie Haga. He's got all-action man Chris Walker right in front of him, but the all-action man at the front is Troy Corser. Look at him, he's 1.5 seconds clear. What's the man playing at? If he was trying to conserve his tyres in the first race, he's certainly not the least bit concerned about doing that this time round. Rob, how can you explain a man making a break like that at the front? Is it just that he's feeling more comfortable more quickly, and he's just going for it and thinking that the further he gets ahead, the harder it'll be to catch him?
In addition to that, in the first race, I really felt sorry for Troy Corser, because the temperature the ambient temperature and the track surface temperature was so much lower than yesterday in qualifying when Troy was doing a superb job to get on the front row of the grid. But now the ambient and the track surface is just like yesterday, so the bike setup that they worked so hard on Friday and Saturday to create for the race is just right. So he got his head down, had a brilliant ballistic start, and so did Carl Fogarty. Got held up a bit, but look at the Hondas. They are just siding through there. I think Killy has gone from third back to... Oh, that's one of the Hondas down. Is that... Aaron Slight has low-sided coming out of Melbourne. The bike just low-sided. James Whittam, what did you think that happened? What did happen?
I think the head was running wide actually and just touched his handlebar. I think that's what the gesture was about afterwards. I think you'll find it touched, I think.
So he won't be too pleased with his teammate?
He'll not be too pleased with his teammate, no.
Here we see it again. Talk us through it, James. Just exiting on the power.
You just see him, and I think he's caught his handlebar on the back of the Edwards. You see how Edwards looked round? He knew he'd done it, and then the gesture says it all. We'll see in a minute. Maybe not.
So that's why the Kiwi had gone underneath, and Edwards went underneath at the same time. 2, 3 into 1 didn't really go. They were both overtaking Keeley on the inside. There wasn't the room.
It does happen. Just a racing accident, that one.
Look at Haga. Your teammate, your new teammate, what's he like? What was the problem in that first race? Have you any idea?
I have no idea. I think everybody were having tyre problems because, as Rob said, the setup was, the track temperature was so much lower than it was for testing that everybody was struggling. I know I spoke to Carl and he said exactly the same. He's gone for a slightly harder tyre, more like they did have when it was this temperature in practice. But Carl looks to be fiddling with it. I don't know whether he's got a problem or just taking a tail off, but it certainly doesn't look as relaxed and happy as he did in the first race.
And he's now got Colin Edwards for company, and of course Edwards has been describing as disgusting the distance he's been finishing behind those Ducatis, and he'd certainly like to press on and get in front of them now here at Donington Park.
But look at Norrie
Haga's 4th place and skating.
We watched in qualifying Haga doing strange things with that Yamaha on the brakes, but Carl Fogarty still managing to hold off Colin Edwards as we go into Goddard's with just 2 laps gone of this race, with drama unfolding in those 2 or 3 first laps. But look at the lead Troy Corser's got at the moment, 3.085 seconds, almost the length of the start-finish straight. But Carl is pitching into Redgate. He's coming now onto the fastest part of the circuit for him, and that will help him to keep ahead of the Honda, and that is Carl Fogarty. Is looking a little bit more settled. James, do you think there's a problem with the front forks or the suspension on the Ducati?
I think you'll find that the problem he's having is that the tyre. He's definitely gone for a different tyre, and he doesn't quite look as relaxed now, but I think we'll find that he can keep a better pace up as the race goes on. And I don't know what tyre Corser's gone for. Maybe a different tyre that's is able to go a little bit quicker earlier. I know Carl's hoping the tyre will last a little bit longer than the one did in the first race.
And Norrie Haga is hanging right off that Yamaha. I think he's been taking riding lessons from Jamie Whittam myself, because he's certainly developing the Whittam technique, and he's right over the inside of that Yamaha, head down, and he is going for it in front of the Suzuki, and it's developing into a pretty snazzy race. Behind him, incidentally, as Colin Edwards tries to get a sniff up the inside of Carl Fogarty into the S's. Sean Emmett's in there, look. Sean Emmett's in there ahead of Pier Francesco Killy, the man on the Revy Red Bull Ducati, putting in a fine showing. But Carl Fogarty is the second Ducati at the moment, because already going off up that hill and over the brow. And here's Aaron Slight. Aaron Slight has rejoined the race after that calamitous coming together with his teammate. And, well, it's a long haul for him, but he's got a long time to go, hasn't he?
Yeah, he always picks a bike up. He's quite a tough chap, is Aaron. Several times he scored points after coming off the bike, so if he can score points, he's obviously thinking of the championship, which is a good thing.
Now that gap has gone down, 2.7 seconds. I just wonder if the Fogarty-Edwards high-speed train is gradually going to come back on Troy Corser. Fogarty's just set the fastest lap, and that's 1:34.035, fastest lap so far. And Norrie Haga's also 1:34.772. He's getting on the gas with the R7. Killy, Jamie Hayden and Chris Walker, incidentally, are rounding out the front 8. And Walker's going to have Yanagawa for company all over again in this race, I do suspect. There's the leader, Troy Corser, 1996 champion, double winner here. There's Carl Fogarty, 6 times a winner here. The first time in 1992 on Ducati, always, of course, on Ducati when he's been victorious at Donington Park. Well, there's still every possibility he could make it. 7th time lucky, 2:44, 2:51 for Fogarty, 2:54 for Edwards, going up the inside again, snaking through. But Fogarty just comes across late and clips off the front of the Honda. Was that as close as it looked?
Yeah, I think that was quite close, that one.
Well, the Honda, of course, got just a slender 2 miles an hour advantage top speed down the fastest part of Donington Park Circuit, and I think that was a definite try for the lead by Colin, well, not for the lead, for second place by Colin Edwards, but if you like, a dress rehearsal for what I believe will take place, if not the next lap, the one after that. But Carl Fogarty seems to be settling down now. Jack, you're right by saying that he's got the fastest lap, but still that 1.85 seconds behind Troy Corser. Troy Corser's bike is just fired straight from the start of this race, and he looks so comfortable, a lot happier with the tyre combination now. The temperature is back up to what it was in yesterday's qualifying. But Carl Fogarty on the fastest part of the circuit for him. He's down through Hollywood and Craner curves and then down into the intimidating right-hander at the bottom of the hill, and look at the gap between Troy Corser and Carl Fogarty. It's coming down a little bit. Foggy made up a lot, well, at least a couple of tenths a second then on the favourite part of Fogarty's circuit, but Troy Corser is settled, and Foggy's coming up there in second place, but taking Colin Edwards with him. I think there's two groups, one of which is Troy Corser and the other one Fogarty, and the third place man there of Colin Edwards is about to become one group of 3 bikes very soon.
We can hear the sound of the crowd round the back of the circuit. This huge crowd here at Donington Park urging Carl Fogarty on. Jamie Whittam, were you aware of that? Could you hear it when you were leading that race or getting near the front?
Yeah, you can sense it. You can see the flags waving and things like that. It's just a very good feeling. It's a feeling that Carl's had a whole lot more than me, but yeah, it definitely helps, and it's good to have put a result in at your home round, you know.
It must be tremendously enjoyable. And talk about lads having good results. That scrap for the lower order there. Emmett, Hayden, Walker, Yanagawa, Romboni. It's all hell breaking loose just on the inside the top 10 there for those lower order points. I remember 13 points for 4th place in the first race has actually put Chris Walker into 13th place on 13 points in the championship. But look how that gap has dropped. 1.33 now all the time. The freight train of Carl Fogarty with a fastest lap again, 1:33.928, and Colin Edwards is beginning to haul in Troy Corser. And look at the three of them absolutely buried on the bikes, giving it everything.
This is exactly what I thought when Carl's gone for a harder tyre. He's taking his time. He didn't do anything silly first couple of laps when the tyre could have been knobbed to temperature, and now he's reeling Corser in. This is perfect. Carl's in a perfect position here, and he'll be really enjoying it now.
Well, Carl Fogarty, you're quite right, James. Carl Fogarty's taken a second out of Troy Corser in the space of just 1.5 laps. Just that tantalising, teasing 1.33 seconds now behind Troy Corser. So Carl, a lot happier with the overall setup of the Ducati Performance machine. The sun is out, but Foggy is closing down, and I expect at the end of this lap we'll see it. Yes, quite right. Look, 1.143 seconds now between Corser and Fogarty. Foggy, people power, Ducati power is closing down 1/10 of a second by 1/10 of a second, and Carl is particularly good on this section on the brakes into the Melbourne loop. He can see that Corser is getting closer and closer, and the third place man on the Honda, Colin Edwards, is going with them. So my prediction is coming to fruition. The three-way battle for the lead is all but on us, Jack, and we're coming around Goddard's onto the start now, I think, of 5th or the 6th lap, and Carl Fogarty is zeroing in onto the back of his teammate Troy Corser.
Now, you know Carl extremely well, Jamie, a lot better than we two do. What would you think is going on in his head now, and would you take him for a win at this stage?
I'd definitely take him for a win, and I'll tell you what's going through his mind. It's come to daddy. He's definitely just thinking he's going to catch him, and it's a good position to be in. He probably knows by now he's getting the quickest laps. He'll know from the lap count on his handlebars there, and he'll just be thinking, he'll be taking his time. He won't want to be rushing, and he knows he's going to catch him at this stage, I think.
Well, there you are. That's and just at that moment, he has a snatchy little moment coming out of the fast right-hander. So, Troy Corser leads, 2nd place Carl Fogarty, 3rd place Colin Edwards. The 2nd Superbike race is hotting up. Front three then absolutely neck and neck here at Donington Park. 2nd race of the Motorcycle News-backed World Superbike Championship round. 3rd round in the series. Troy Corser leads. Carl Fogarty 2nd. The horns are out, the noise is getting deafening, and a grandstand view there for Castrol Honda's Colin Edwards. Alongside me, James Whittam, who was the winner, the loudly cheered, loudly hailed winner on a Belgada Yamaha of the Super Sports race. And he's put his money on Carl Fogarty. He's probably just put 50p on it, because you are a Yorkshireman. You wouldn't bet more than that, would you, Jamie?
No, not usually.
And I know that Rob Orr wouldn't bet more than 50p. Who's your money on then, Robert?
Well, I lost it when poor old Frankie Killy fell off in the first race. So, but Carl Fogarty is in devastating form, so I fancy him for the double win here today. But it's key thing to see that in third place, Colin Edwards has got the best seat in the house. He is able to stay with Carl Fogarty, it seems, quite easily, and so the Honda is well set up despite that little collision with his teammate Aaron Slight, so no problems with the 5 Honda. But Carl Fogarty now is closed up to right onto the back wheel of Troy Corser. These two riders, Corser and Fogarty, they know each other so well. They know each other's strengths, no weaknesses, but certainly any possible passing positions around Donington Park. And Troy Corser will know from his lap board that Carl Fogarty is right there, and of course in third place Colin Edwards. And what I think will happen is Carl will stay behind Troy Corser for a few more laps yet and get probably to over half race distance, or just a few more laps anyway, because to go by Troy Corser too soon would show Carl Fogarty's hand. Troy would then be able to tuck in behind Carl and see where his strengths and possible weaknesses might be. But there's either that going to happen, or Carl Fogarty will get up behind Troy Corser and do a punch impact, get by Troy Corser and try and pull 3 or 4 seconds and break clear, which, yeah, well, the second two of the things I think is going to come into action really soon here. James, you know Carl so well. Do you think that Carl will get by, or try to get by Troy Corser and then pull 3 or 4 seconds on him, or do you think he'll be patient and wait?
It depends if he thinks he can do it. If he thinks he can pull some time on him, he will go for the pass. And I mean, there you've got a perfect example of what he should have done. He had Edwards snapping at his heels, so maybe that was worrying him as well. I think we'll see Carl trying to go for the lead now, if he can get back past Edwards, of course, obviously.
Well, yeah, it was a bit of unfortunate for him.
Yeah, very unfortunate.
Snook up on the inside at Goddard's, because it looked to me if Carl was taking your first option, Rob, and was actually playing a bit of a waiting game there. What does intrigue me is the fact that, he's speeded up again slightly now, but it's Corser's times that have been dropping successively rather than the other guys getting quicker, and I wondered if there might be any reason for that.
Well, Troy Corser will be going as fast as he possibly can at this stage of the race, and will be able to see by his lap board that it's plus nothing, and he'll probably have a very good idea. I haven't seen him look behind Troy Corser, but he'll have a very good idea that it's going to be a Honda, or at least one Honda, but definitely another Ducati, and really will want to go at the fastest pace that he possibly can, and approaching half race distance, we'll want to see who passes him and just how much faster he's got to go to try and win the race. But certainly Colin Edwards is making a manoeuvre now to try and go through on Troy Corser as we go through the S's onto the Melbourne section. But Colin Edwards, I think, has got the idea that Carl Fogarty was originally thinking about, to get by and try and get a few seconds on the leader, and he goes for the inside at Melbourne, but it didn't work this time, and that has meant that Carl Fogarty, the chap who's trying to go for his 4th World Championship, has closed right up on the 2 leaders. But there goes the Honda for the inside line at Goddard's. But every lap, every corner, Troy Corser has got things covered just at the moment, but it is a 3-way dice for the lead.
The fastest lap on the last lap was done by Akira Yanagawa and that shimmering Kawasaki. They've gone up into 6th place past Jamie Hayden and Sean Emmett. So the man on the move at the moment, Yanagawa, he's now less than 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds behind Pier Francesco Chili, and he's setting the fastest lap, considering he's gone down 1:34.45, faster than the boys at the front. They're all over one another now. Does that result in these guys slowing one another down, Jamie, when they're this close?
I think there is a little bit of that going on. Yeah, I mean, the lap times are a lot slower than they were in the first race at this point, so I think there is a little bit of that going. They're all panicking a little bit, and
So into the lead, Colin Edwards is there, 2nd place Troy Corser, 3rd place Carl Fogarty, and this is one hectic dice for the lead. And it's looking like Edwards. Could Edwards have the legs on the Ducatis? Has he just got that set up so perfect that the Castrol Honda could win? 251. Look at the difference in speed. And Corser loses 2nd place to Carl Fogarty. He's seen the move that Colin Edwards has made. Presumably, Jamie, he doesn't want him to get away.
That's right. I think Carl just saw Edwards maybe trying to get away there, and has gone straight past Corser, and he's going to be chasing after Edwards now. I still think at this point Carl's still got it covered myself.
That's going to be fascinating. At this point, the 11th lap, that's out of 25, so we're pretty much half distance, very, very close to half distance. And as we come round to complete lap 12 out of 25, the man at the front is Colin Edwards as they hammer past us here. At the 1, 2, 3 across the finishing line. And look at this. Look at Edwards getting inside Troy Corser.
And that was on the bumpy McLean's corner on the back part of the circuit. That was a double whammy brave manoeuvre.
It was, because it is really bumpy going in there, and if you're going a little bit offline, you can soon lose the front.
We have seen people do that, have we not, during the course of the weekend? So leading at the moment. Oh, and down has gone number 42 again, Jamie Hayden. Jamie Hayden, for the second time, ditches the Clarion Suzuki when he's in a healthy position. He was lying in a strong place behind Yanagawa in 7th place. Boy, that lad's having a season, an up and down season, winning one weekend, crushing the next.
On the same part of that Melbourne hairpin, so whether it's low side or high side, it's sideline for James Hayden. I just hope he's not injured, but that is desperate fortune for him. But meanwhile at the front...
Rename it Suzuki Corner, because it seems to be bad for the Suzukis, Keeley and the Clarions.
But the 45 bike of Colin Edwards, strong where it's strongest, and that's down that back straight here at Donington Park. It's, we said, yeah, just the speed there, 254 kilometres in qualifying, so that Honda bike is fast.
Hotting up the pace then. Colin Edwards, 133.98. He dipped under 134 on the last lap. So Edwards is picking up the pace, and Carl Fogarty is trying to go with him. And as they whip across the finishing line now, 134.06, 134.1 for Carl Fogarty, and 135.07. So a second lost for Troy Corser on that lap. And here is Nori Haga, Pier Francesco Keeley, and Akira Yanagawa. So the 4th, 5th, and 6th places are just as close as the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. We've got a whizzing race on our hands. James Whittam, do you sit here and watch this and wish you were out there, or can you sit back, relax and enjoy it?
I can sit back and relax now. I've done my race for the day, but yeah, to be honest, I wish I'd have been in those Superbike race, I must admit.
But we might yet welcome you back. You never know. Have you talked to Mr. Branson yet?
No, I'm going to do. You'd just never know, would you?
You'd never know. You never know what can happen tomorrow, do you? Or even tonight. Well, it's what's happening right now, to me, is that Troy Corser, whatever the edge those tyres gave him early on, he's losing that now.
Yeah.
Correct, and what we can see, it surprised me, but Edwards is able to go out on his own in front. He's going really well. I'm impressed.
We've said all through qualifying, James, that the Hondas, unlike previous Superbike races where the back wheel has been sliding, they've not been able to get the power down from the very powerful RC45 engine, particularly through qualifying on Friday and Saturday here. The Hondas coming to the corner we're going to exit now. We're down the hill approach to the Melbourne hairpin. Let's watch the back wheel of the number 5 bike. Colin Edwards, that bike, the rear wheel is able to get the enormous RC45 power down. They're getting the drive, that's what I'm saying. Unlike previous races, Honda have got the mix, the balance of the bike much better, and that, particularly around Donington Park, getting the drive, the slipstream, the slingshot out of the corners is paying big dividends. And Carl is, well, what is that? Just nearly a second off the back of Colin Edwards. Do you really think that Carl's still got it covered, James?
I don't. I've changed my mind, actually. Edwards.
Oh!
That's 50p gone.
Yeah.
No, I had each way, didn't I?
Good for you. A true survivor.
So in the lead now, Colin Edwards, almost a second clear of Carl Fogarty. Troy Corser now 3.6 seconds down on the leader. Nori Haga, Frankie Keeley and Yanagawa nailed together 10 seconds behind the leader. And then Doriano Romboni and John Reynolds absolutely slugging it out in a Ducati duo, 7th and 8th places. Stevie Hislop just set his fastest lap, 135.18, on a bike that he thinks handles like an old mattress. So that's quite a remarkable performance from the veteran Scotsman. Sean Everett back in 10th, Niall Mackenzie 11th, just ahead of Fujiwara on the 2nd Suzuki. So it's all happening here, and there's number 111, Aaron Slight. He wants to keep away from his teammate Colin Edwards, whatever he does, so he better be a good boy when he's being lapped. Aaron Slight presently in 20th place, incidentally, on our lap charts behind Lance Isaacs and Chris Walker. Whatever happened to Chris Walker? We've lost Chris Walker after that wonderful 4th place in the first race. Here's Nori Haga, 4th now, 5th place. Frankie Keeley, 6th place. Look at Yanagawa squirreling round on that Kawasaki. And this is one heck of a ride going on between these guys. Look at them, they're all over one another. Someone's keeping out of the way. They'd better keep well clear of this one. Oh, only just.
It was interesting to see on a caption just a second or two ago, Jack, that Colin Edwards has banged in the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:33.8, which is just over 0.1 of a second off the 1996 circuit lap record set by Troy Corser. And so obviously Colin Edwards has seen, with 10 laps to go, seen his lap board and knows that Carl Fogarty is loitering with intent just over a second off the back of the bike there of Colin Edwards, and so has been able to react to that and up the pace a tiny little bit, but only a teasing 1 second, 1.094 Colin Edwards in front of Carl Fogarty.
We're going to see if Slighty can get his own back here as Edwards comes to lap him. This could be interesting.
That would complete a miserable day for Castrol Honda if he did, wouldn't it? But you were saying that, James, that the New Zealander never says die. He's up in the 19th place, so he could yet get himself some points. 15th, he could get a point, but he's still got a lot of work to do to reach Gramini in 5th place right now. And of course, at the same time, he's going to get hampered by having to keep out of the way of Colin Edwards and the other guys chasing up the leader.
Well, that's Aaron Slight, who's realised that the bikes are closing down on him and waved his hand to wave Colin Edwards by. That was a good move.
I think we'll find it wasn't a waving him by, and I think we'll find that Mr. Slight is very, very, very angry. He gave him the finger there, I think.
Oh, did he?
I think he did. Yeah,
that was the bird, was it?
Well, you have all... Oh, and he's now going to hang on to it, make life difficult for him. And could he make life difficult for Fogarty, or will he not be interested in that?
No, I think he's interested in only one thing, and it is revenge at this point.
Yeah, the payback can sometimes be a bitch, as we've heard Troy Corser say on a few occasions. But Neil Tuxworth, the race manager for Castrol Honda, will be a little bit uneasy at the moment, but it does seem that Colin Edwards has got things under control as they disappear off around Hollywood and Craner Curves, and Slighty just inexorably dropping off the back of Colin Edwards, and Carl Fogarty, with the best seat in the house, can see what's unfolding in front of him. Carl Fogarty, what I think will do, James, you might back me up on this, will try to get up onto the back of Aaron Slight as they go onto the back part of the circuit, this straight where the Hondas are visibly faster, and will try and get a slipstream and hopefully draft Carl Fogarty a little bit closer to the back of the 5 bike and Colin Edwards. What do you think, James?
Yeah, I think that would be his plan, but I think at the minute he wants to keep out of the way, because the way Slighty looks at the minute, he is after revenge, definitely. I've never seen anything like this in my life before. Well, Slighty obviously waited for him, waved the finger at him, and now he's after his... I can't understand this at all. Oh, my word.
I thought Slight might be taking advantage of being hauled along and therefore get himself back into contention for points.
No,
you don't think it's that clear?
He actually waited for him. He waited for him on purpose, and he was looking around, and now he's going just as quick as him. This is unbelievable.
I wonder what Tux is thinking right now in the Honda pits. Well, probably he'd be chewing those fingernails even further down to the quick.
This is like playground stuff.
Well, it's more like playground, it's more like the ground war. I think Neil Tuxworth, normally the Mr. Iceman of the paddock, will be looking and will not be smiling at what he's seeing unfold in front of him. But every time they come onto the start-finish straight, Colin Edwards is able to get that power down. We've talked about the bike being more balanced than ever before, getting the traction, getting the power down. But all the time, this man, Carl Fogarty, going for his 4th World Championship, can see the Hondas dueling in the sun. And thank you very much. And is helping to...
Look at Yanagawa. He's passed Keeley and he's passed number 41, Norihaga. What a great ride by the Kawasaki through into 4th place.
The interesting thing there is Slighty had the quickest lap that lap. Yeah, it was the quickest person out there that lap, which is unbelievable.
So he's really going to make life difficult. Then look at this, Akira Yanagawa, 135.07 on that lap. But the important thing was he planted his way past both Keeley and I reckon that Norihaga. I don't know what's happening with Haga. I just wonder if those Dunlops aren't lasting as he would want them to. But there's nothing wrong with the way that the Dunlops are lasting on this factory Kawasaki. He's now through to 4th place. Akira Yanagawa in 4th place on bike number 4. And there is Norihaga. He's now been relegated to 6th place, but this is still some 3-way battle. He's got to try and stay involved in on the R7. Have you ever had a chance to ride an R7 yet, James Whittam?
No, I haven't. I'm looking forward to it. If I do get a chance, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it needs to be a little bit quicker and it needs some sorting out, but I think essentially it's going to be a good bike. Remember, it is brand new. We remember how long it took the Honda to get, up to speed, and the Suzuki, so it's very early on in the development for them.
And look how that bike is sliding. Look how much that man likes his sliding Dunlops. He did say that's how he liked them to behave when we talked to him yesterday, Rob. It
is. The Kawasaki of Yanagawa is slightly a little bit less loose than it was in the first race. He was trying, and I did say, desperation manoeuvres to try and get past Chris Walker, but they firmed up the suspension of that Kawasaki, and it's paying big dividends for Akira Yanagawa. We've talked about getting traction and drive out of the corners. Well, Yanagawa is, in the second race, able to do that. And and look how much dividend it's paying him. He's up into 4th position, where he really should have been, I think, in the first race, but hey, we all make mistakes.
And that man who was 5th in the... Oh, and someone's got Noriyuki's gone down!
Oh no, the Yamaha is crashed at the bottom of the hill.
Oh, it's not.
Honda Slighty's off again!
Aaron Slight, well, that's the end of a miserable second race for him. He'll be furious because he was extremely miffed when he only finished 2nd in the first race. That was a hell of a sight better than that one.
And now his revenge plan has failed. He'll be really upset.
Well, Aaron Slight, what were you doing? Well, Aaron Slight, anyway, he'd set the fastest lap of the race on that previous lap and finally overcooked it. So, bye-bye to him. And I should think his teammate is extremely relieved. I think he'd rather have Carl Fogarty a couple of seconds behind him with clear track.
And Carl will have been able to see that as well. Here we are at McLean's, the bumps at McLean's, like you said, James. Did that claim?
Yep, that's what got him.
Just Aaron went into the corner that little bit too hot over those dreadful ripples at McLean's, and the bike, the front tyre just lost its grip, the steering understeers, and the bike just slid away unceremoniously. Poor old Aaron Slight back into the beach for the 2nd time this race.
6 laps to go then. Carl Fogarty number 1, but he's 2nd in the race. 2.47 seconds adrift of that number 5 bike of Colin Edwards. And the one thing I don't want to hear if the positions stay like this is for that Texan to mount the rostrum and complain about rapid Ducatis, because I think right now that Honda is the bike that's going to produce the goods, and there's not a lot that Carl can do about it. But if we had overall results in a World Championship Superbike round, of course, then he would be the overall winner. But he likes to win races. What he's got to remember, however, is that he's going to extend even further that championship lead over Troy Corser and certainly over the stricken Aaron Slight. But right now, you think he might have settled for 2nd, James, or is that not the way that Carl Fogarty thinks?
It's generally not the way it works, but sometimes you just have to do that, and I think he'll be thinking about championship. He's definitely going to want to bring it home, and like you say, he'll extend his lead. And championship-wise, at this stage of the season, this is it's just what he wants, really. It's not probably what he wants today, but I think he'll look back on it and say, you know, if you've got to finish 2nd, you've got to finish 2nd.
Well, Edwards, remember, on 72 points to Carl's 115. My maths is so dismal, I can't work that out in my head instantly, but it's a pretty hefty gap. So if he's going to be beaten by anybody, it might as well be Colin.
Correct.
Well,
So-
Carl, sorry, Jack, if Carl Fogarty finishes in 2nd place, he'll get 20 points, and that will take him up to 135 points. And Colin Edwards currently finishes in the position he's in at the moment. That will take him up to, what's that?
97.
97 points. And so Carl, more so than ever last season, we saw Carl, when the die was particularly cast, particularly with 5 laps to go, did just back off and stay and settle for 2nd place, whereas perhaps 4 or 5 seasons ago, Carl would have gone harder and harder and harder and still tried to get the race win. But Carl knows that having seen Aaron Slight take to the dirt once again in this race, Carl, well, Jamie, we thought that Carl had got it covered, but he's gone for a covered in 2nd place and a car boot full of championship points.
Yeah, you've got to know when to sort of cut your losses and take the points, and I think Carl at the minute will be thinking about taking the points. He'll always be hoping something will go wrong with Edwards' bike, but being the Honda, that never happens. He's very reliable, so I think now he will be thinking of the championship and definitely bringing it home, especially when he knows that they've dropped Corsa.
And of course, Colin Edwards did have that problem with the clutch in the first race, which we now know slows the Honda down. Still fighting, still desperately trying to get on terms, but probably settling for 2nd place. World champion Carl Fogarty on the number 1 Ducati. He's in 2nd place. There's the leader into the Melbourne hairpin. The man who had clutch problems in the first, said he pretty much burned the clutch out on the starting grid in the first race, Colin Edwards. And we now know just how much it slowed down that Castrol Honda, because he's now a couple of seconds clear of Carl Fogarty in the lead of race 2 here at the Motorcycle News-backed World Superbike Championship round. This, of course, round 3 of a 13-round series, which will end at Sugo, Japan, as it did last year in October. And behind them, Yanagawa into 4th place. Frankie Killy looking as if he might land another 5th place here at Donington after throwing the Suzuki up the road at the hairpin when he was lying a very, very fine 3rd in race 1. But look at the way that Carl Fogarty, he certainly stays focused, doesn't he? There's nothing wrong with that man's concentration.
No, none at all, and it didn't look as though he was having any problems with changing up through the gearbox in this second race. We remember at the post-race interview, Carl was saying, hey, I was having to use the clutch going up through the gearbox. My wrist's really aching. It's been years since I've had to do that, but there didn't seem to be any problem for Carl as he was exiting Redgate Corner then, and Carl will have seen his lap board. Slick Bass will have shown him that he's got around 8 seconds or more over third placeman Troy Corser. So Carl, yeah, definitely going for the second place, and that 20 points, which will keep him in a very, very healthy lead in the championship. But so far, unless anything goes wrong with the number 5 Honda bike, Carl is not on for a double win again here at Donington Park this year.
And still the fastest man on the racetrack is Akira Yanagawa in 4th place, 134.419 on that Kawasaki. The other Kawasaki moving fast, Stevie Hislop, has moved past John Reynolds into 8th place, and he's now getting onto the back of Doriano Romboni. So that ex-Yanagawa, there's 2 Akira Yanagawa bikes out there, and they're both going very fast.
Well, Yanagawa's bike handling a lot better now, though, I'm relieved to say, because in the first race, Yanagawa was scaring me when he was coming up on the back of Chris Walker's bike. But 3 laps to go, Jack.
3 laps to go for Colin Edwards. The Castrol Honda leads 2.9 seconds ahead of Carl Fogarty, and we're not getting the same deafening response to Foggy passing by as we did in race 1, nor indeed as we did when Jamie Whittam was punching his way to the front of the Super Sports race, and indeed on his way to victory. Incidentally, James, I don't know whether you fancy doing any more rounds, but it put you in quite a good position in that championship, that win.
Yeah, the price has just gone up now.
Well, it would be nice to see you do a few more, but there again, you wouldn't have this amazing crowd behind you until Brands Hatch, would you?
That's true.
What's the news on Massimo Merigali? Is he coming back? Was that his bike, his actual bike?
That's his bike, yeah, and he's definitely coming back, and the team are going to be loyal to him, which they should be. That's, you know, from a rider's point of view, that's what you want.
And did he have that bike nicely set up? Did you use the settings just as he had, pretty much as you wanted?
To be honest, we haven't had time to alter much at all, so yeah, basically, yeah. But the bike's good from standard, they're a good bike.
Yeah. So the R6 Yamaha doing the job in World Super Sports, and here it's the Ducati of Carl Fogarty doing the job once again in second, albeit in second place, but there's still plenty of applause for him around the track because he knows how good that is for his championship hopes. And I shouldn't think he's thinking about the championship at this stage, but anybody with any sense would think, well, second place is good enough, and it's going to open me up a few more points. Actually, it must be quite hard. Do you ever start thinking about things like that when you're on the track? Sometimes
it is off-putting if you start thinking about championships this early in the season. I know Carl, sometimes in the past, he's got nervous when he's had a lead because he starts thinking about the championship just instead of winning races. So, but for sure, he'll be thinking about going away from Donington with you know, more points than anybody else. So he's definitely extending his lead in the championship, which if he's not thinking about it now, will be just afterwards.
So, 23 laps gone. Colin Edwards from Texas, former 250cc American champion, former Yamaha factory rider, and here he is in World Superbikes, proving what he's been complaining about was actually a load of stuff and nonsense, that the Castrol Honda can't mix it with the Ducatis.
And meanwhile, back in the paddock, Aaron Slight's getting his knuckle dusters out.
Yes, it's going to be quite a friendly confrontation. In fact, anybody around here, folks, want to go down and check out the Castrol Honda pits as soon as this race finishes and see if Aaron's made it back home yet to warmly greet his American pal. So Colin Edwards heading for victory. His first race win of the 10 he told us he would have this year in Kyalami. He said 10 race wins pre-season, this was talking, and therefore the World Championship. Do you think that's what other tracks will favour him? There must be others that will favour the Honda.
Monza's a good one for them. Anywhere where basically any speed circuits they're good at. I mean, not just that they're good at speed circuits, but they are a fast bike, and they were very, very strong at Monza last year.
Would you describe this as a speed circuit?
No, not at all.
And yet they're good round here.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, they're not just good at speed circuits.
Well, James, you were saying about Monza, and of course Colin Edwards was the double winner, one of only 4 double winners in the 1998 season. He bagged both race wins in Monza last year, and Killy was double winner in Kyalami, and Noriyuki Haga obviously here in Donington, and Aaron Slight, the double race winner in Misano and the A1 ring last year. But you're quite right, the Honda of Colin Edwards was unbeatable at Monza in 1998.
And it's certainly unbeatable in the second race here at the Motorcycle News-backed World Superbike Championship race at Donington Park in Leicestershire. 2.5 miles of undulating tarmac, which is proving very suitable to this Honda. They have got it beautifully set up, and this at least should cheer up Neil Tucks. And I suppose if Tucks isn't too busy keeping them apart when they finish the race, he ought to be able to celebrate this victory in some sort of style. Killy still 5th, Hager in 6th place, Romboni 7th, Reynolds 8th, and Hislop back to 9th place. When I thought there I was winding up Stevie Hislop, thinking he was making progress forward, and he slipped back behind John Reynolds. You don't get the better of JR that easily. The Virgin Yamaha of Jamie Whittam's prospective new teammate, if things ever work out. Niall Mackenzie is 10th, Fujiwara 11th, and Robert Ulm in 12th place. And it's noticeable that the extremely unwell Gregorio Lavir has slipped away out of this race. As indeed, rather sadly, did Chris Walker. We don't know what happened to Chris. We'll hopefully find that out afterwards. But this man into the Melbourne hairpin for the last time. Don't run too wide. Run off the ghost of Aaron Slide here. You can probably see the mark on the... No, I shouldn't think he'd be taking too much notice of that, because Colin Edwards is a pretty focused man. We know that. And he wants to become world champion. And I think he could turn out to be a very major threat to Carl Fogarty during the course of this year. The Castrol Honda raises its front wheel. The horns go off. Colin Edwards, he'll be very, very pleased with that. 3rd and 1st for him. And 1st and 2nd. Look at that sigh of relief from the Castrol Honda guys, because they know that they've achieved what they wanted. And Troy Corsa, a lonely 3rd. Akira Yanagara still with his head buried in the tank in 4th place. No wheelies for him. 5th place, terrific result for Pier Francesco Chilia. Look at this! Romboni on the left, JR on the right. JR's got underneath him going into Goddard's for the last time. What a fantastic performance. Johnny Reynolds on the Revy Red Bull Ducati, and those two are identical bikes. Just look at him shaking his fist as he crossed the line, and Stevie Hislop just behind them. So terrific results for the Brits here at Donington Park. Carl Fogarty applauding the fans as he goes round, because he knows how much of a part they played. And Jamie, you must have enjoyed that as well in your race.
I did. I don't think Carl can go home too disappointed. He'll be disappointed not to win, but he didn't look too disappointed then. I think he'll go home appreciative of the points and extending his lead in the championship, to be honest.
And appreciative of the fact that there aren't any metal wire fences
We've got a streaker on there. There's a guy with no clothes on. Honestly.
Yeah, he
well,
was,
it's all right, I'll believe you. This is England.
He was at the concert last night, didn't you see him?
That's right, climbing the pole. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And he starred with the Daytona Biker Babes later on, I think.
Excellent.
And of course, the poor boys were on last night, weren't they?
Yeah, we played last night. Yeah, it was the crowd was quiet until the birds came on and started taking the clothes off. Then it all got a bit out of shape, actually.
That's it. And we missed it, Jack. We should not have done that.
We shouldn't have done. Why weren't we there? But it didn't affect Jamie's performance today. I'm glad to say you could concentrate on the job in hand. And I haven't seen Carl emerge from this yet. I hope the streaker hasn't got a hold of him. But yes, he has. I beg your pardon. He has emerged through that throng of people. And this is great, because we had winter conditions at Donington Park 13 months ago, and not nearly enough people here, really. And look at this. He's really chuffed with the reception he's getting. And Carl Fogarty, Colin Edwards. And look at that gap. 135 points to 112. Top of the championship. Colin Edwards moves into 3rd position ahead of Aaron Slight. That'll please Aaron even more. And Yanagawa into 5th place. Hager is 6th. Romboni 7th. Killy, that's brightened up his scoreline anyway in 9th place. Poor Lavia. JR's level with him now, because Lavia's had a really disastrous weekend after some good qualifying times. And but we know that he'll be back. But what a wonderful day here at... well, the sun's absolutely blazing down now. What has changed since this morning when it was so chilly? And look at that. Colin Edwards pointing at someone there as if to say, I told you I could do it. So that, as long as he doesn't get up on the rostrum and say, yeah, I was absolutely... He wants to get up and say, that was a disgusting distance I won that race by, wasn't it? It was so easy.
I think he's going to have to start thinking about his excuses, to be honest.
What, the excuses for the last 2 races?
No, the excuse for Aaron Slide. Yeah. Otherwise, he's going to stop one, I think.
Well, it was a pretty ridiculous move to pull on your teammate, was it? I mean, surely...
No, racing accident. Slighty was slightly behind and going around the outside. So, I mean, I don't think anybody's fault. So, obviously, Slighty thought that it was Edwards' fault. Maybe there's something we didn't see there.
And look at this man, Norrie Hager. He's a very, very popular man indeed, as indeed is this man, Carl Fogarty, the most popular man here right now. Norrie Hager takes to the grass to avoid the crowds here at Donington Park. That's probably the safest route home. Knowing Norrie, you never know where he might take it next. What a great little character. Let's hope he sticks in World Superbikes for a while, and let's hope he can get that R7 Yamaha sorted out, because as you were saying yesterday, Rob, during qualifying, you felt that at the moment the rider was faster than the bike.
Yes, yeah, I think the Hager factor is still making up for the deficiencies in the bike's overall performance, and I think whether it's in domestic championships with the Virgin Yamaha for Neil Mackenzie, or in World Championship, the R7 is developing at a very quick rate, but still the rider is having to make up for the bike not being quick enough down the straights at the moment. But it will change. Yamaha will get it right, as you said, James.
Yeah, I'd agree wholeheartedly with that. I mean, Hager is an excellent rider, and I think he kind of suits to be on a bike that... Oh, we see the slight incident again. I think the handlebars just touched the back of the bike there.
Yeah, look at Edwards, look round quickly to see on earth it was. And I bet there wasn't a pang of remorse from that hard-eyed Texan. I bet you there wasn't.
Possibly not.
Oops. No, look at that. There wouldn't have been for a hard-eyed Huddersfield Yorkshire rider, would there?
One less person to beat. Clear the way.
Well, certainly Neil Tuxworth has to be the peacekeeper between those two. There's no real axes to grind between them, but certainly they don't exchange information in the team like in the World Supersport between Reba and, of course, James Toseland.
First place then, Colin Edwards. Second, Fogarty. Third, Corsa. Fourth place, Yanagawa. Fifth, Frankie Keeley. Sixth, Norrie Hager. And there's a wonderful scene. Look at that. We haven't seen Donington Park as full as this for a World Championship motorcycle round for a long time. Oh, look at this. Everyone's gathered round the stricken Honda saying, "No, I wish I had an RC45 like that without the race damage."
Well, it might be the last time they see an RC45.
I'm going to say there'll be nothing left of that in 10 minutes. He'll be like a plague of locusts have been through. Oh, that is. I mean, when it gets that far, you just hope it goes low side and spins right out. And when it grips like that,
it never does on copy. So James,
no, that was wishful thinking from my part. No, that is. You wouldn't want to swap places with him.
And yeah, that was probably the painful thinking that was going through Peter's head as he flicked into the air, wasn't it? That was a very unpleasant crash. We hope he's all right. And here is Troy Corsa, finished third.
Well, he doesn't seem unduly unhappy about that third place, which might...